I'm Teisha Bader with Shalom TV's news update for Thursday, April the 25th, 2013. We opened with the Women of the Wall group, who today won a significant legal victory in their efforts for women to pray freely at the Western Wall. Judge Moshe Sobel of the Jerusalem District Court wrote in a ruling released today that the state could not arrest the women for praying aloud or wearing a talit, a prayer shawl, at the wall, and that their prayer at the wall did not disturb public order. The case was in court following the arrest on April 11th of 5 Women of the Wall members who were charged with disturbing the peace and of violating a 2003 Supreme Court decision barring them from wearing prayer shawls and reading from the Torah because those actions deviate from the Orthodox tradition of the site. However, Judge Moshe Sobel wrote in today's ruling that the idea of the tradition of the site can be interpreted in terms that are pluralistic or nationalist and not just Orthodox, and therefore there is no reasonable suspicion that the women violated laws governing holy sites. Sobel in his ruling upheld a previous court ruling on April the 11th that had released the women, finding no cause for their arrest. If today's ruling is not reversed by a higher court, the decision could mark a dramatic turning point in the Women of the Wall struggle. Women of the Wall Chair Anat Hoffman reacted to the ruling, saying today Women of the Wall liberated the Western Wall for all Jewish people, all of whom deserve to pray according to their belief and custom at the Western Wall. The Associated Press reports that United Nations Secretary General Ban KiMoon has rejected recent comments made by UN Special Rapporteur Richard Falk regarding the Boston bombings. As we reported to you earlier this week, Falk, who is known for his anti-Israel views, wrote in an article this past Sunday that the bombings should have been expected, given U.S. foreign policy, and specifically mentioned the U.S.'s friendship with Israel. The Jerusalem Post reported that Ban initially made a statement saying he is not responsible for Falk's independent views, but yesterday, after being questioned by reporters about the comments, UN spokesman Martin Nasurki said that the UN chief rejects Falk's comments regarding the bombing. He said Ban strongly believes that nothing can justify such an attack, adding the Secretary General is hopeful that special rapporteurs such as Mr. Falk understand that while they have independent status, their public comments can undermine the credibility and the work of the United Nations. Both the British and U.S. missions to the UN, as well as the Anti-Defamation League and B'nai B'rith International, have called for Falk's removal. And World Jewish Congress President Ronald Lauder echoed the sentiment. In a statement today, Lauder said someone who publicly justifies despicable acts of terrorism and the deliberate murder of civilians by arguing that somehow Israel and the United States are to blame for such acts is unhinged and therefore entirely unsuited to serve as an advisor to what ought to be the world's top human rights body. And staying with the UN, a spokesperson for UNIFIL, which is the UN's interim force in Lebanon, said today that they were investigating the attempted infiltration of a Lebanese drone into Israeli airspace. As you may have seen on IBA News, the Israeli Air Force shot down a drone over the Mediterranean Sea off the coast of Haifa earlier today, which had flown south from Lebanon. UNIFIL spokesperson Andrea Tenenti said that UNIFIL would issue an update on the drone incident if it was shown to have happened within their geographic area of activity. IDF naval forces continue to search the area for the remains of the unmanned aircraft, which is believed to have been launched by the Hezbollah terrorist organization. And 2 U.S. congressmen introduced legislation this week urging Palestinian political stability in order to prevent a Hamas takeover of the Palestinian Authority. The bipartisan resolution was introduced by Illinois Representatives Republican Peter Roskam and Democrat Daniel Lipinski. It urges the PA and its president Mahmoud Abbas to take certain measures to prevent the extremist Hamas party from becoming the ruling party in the region, including asking Abbas to create a presidential succession plan. Roskam, who is also co-chair of the House Republican Israel Caucus, said that allowing Hamas, which doesn't recognize Israel's right to exist, to overrun the PA would be a fatal blow to prospects for peace in the region. He said, as someone who firmly believes that the only path to a lasting Israeli-Palestinian peace is through direct negotiations, I am pleased to introduce this bipartisan resolution that helps ensure that Israel has a viable partner with whom to negotiate. The resolution also calls for expanded political freedom in the West Bank to ensure fair and responsible elections. The Fatah Party's Palestinian Authority, who controls the West Bank, has been in talks with its rival Hamas, who controls Gaza, in efforts to reconcile and possibly form a unity government and hold presidential elections in the near future. And that's Shalom TV's news update for Thursday, April the 25th, 2013. I'm Teisha Bader.